innovate, and create lasting impact. And today I have my special guest, specialized in brand strategy, design systems, and civic storytelling for mission-driven organizations, nonprofits, and public institutions. None other than Mr. Jason Clark.
Nice to meet you,
Well,
Daniel.
welcome back, Mr. Jason, one of my podcasts. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I missed?
Sure. Nope. I owned my own ad agency, marketing firm for about 20 years. In 2023, I sold it to merge the company with a company named E-Resources, and very recently we just rebranded to Tectonic.
Mm,
So that is what you see on the screen there is our new brand, Tectonic.
amazing website, Mr. Jason. And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. And in line with the rebranding, let's talk about reinvention plus rebrand, knowing when it's time to evolve. So tell us, you've talked about moving from information age to the identify age, where people define themselves by brands they support. For a business owners or a leader sensing that the brand feels outdated, what are the first subtle signals that the gap between who you are and what the world needs has to grow too wide?
Sure. Yeah, that's a good question. Usually you will know if your brand is in need of a refresh if you start spending more time having to explain it to people during your sales or marketing process. The your positioning, your core positioning and your identity and all of that stuff should precede you. So a lot of times, that's the first inclination of a brand that needs to be thought of needing a refresh. Eventually it will affect sales, obviously. Um, the other indication is in the market itself. If your competition has found a tactic or a message that is really connecting with people and they are moving faster than you are in sales, then again, that's a good time to think about a brand refresh.
Mr. Jason, you've been creating since the days of drawing metal bands, logos, and chalk bonds or chalkboards, and running painting process. Looking back across the evolution, what is the difference between the brands that's aging and the brands that's evolving? How can a leader tell which one is happening to them?
Sure. Your brand, specifically your public facing brand, should always be looking ahead a few years and not back. So your brand should be ahead of you. You should position it just a little bit ahead of where you want to be, not where you are right now. So this is an indicator that your your team, your internal team, your employees, your staff, anybody that represents you, even your clients, you're going to be a little bit ahead of them with your brand because you are looking out. You want the next client, you want the next customer. Your the customers and the audience that you already have in your sphere, they already trust you. They're already part of the club. So so yeah, that your brand should be setting up the future, not the past.
Indeed, futuristic brand. You observe that classic advertising campaigns that once worked would struggle today because attention spans and trust have fundamentally shifted. For someone who built their brand in the earlier era, what is the hardest thing to unlearn and what is worth holding to?
Oh, that's a really good question.
Thank you.
The unlearning really is the pace, like you said. There is a freneticism with marketing now because of so many messages coming at people on their phones. So some of the old ways don't really work. Some of the ad campaigns that you might remember from your childhood would have a really hard time connecting with people right now because 20, 30 years ago, the world had newspapers, they had 3 or 4 linear television channels. So the game was how much media could you purchase in order to get that awareness, and you just couldn't do that now in the same way. So you need to think a little bit faster. You need to think a little bit more nimbly. Um, and you need a lot of different messages that might connect with a lot of different people.
Interesting, Mr. Jason. Your concept of the identity age suggests people now choose brands the way previous generations choose tribes or communities. When a brand reinvents itself, what responsibility does it have to the people who have built their own identity around it?
Sure, yeah. It's once someone has developed some kind of affection for your brand, right? That's if they buy your product, if they are a client of yours, they need to be made to feel special. They need to be made to feel that they are part of something special. So that's a different audience that you need to nurture and bring along with you than, say, the audience that you haven't procured yet. So these are tactics like, um, you know, discount rewards types of systems, special emails or news that you wouldn't share with the public, or you might share with them a little bit earlier. Um, you even see this now. The Patreon community does this, and Substack, right? If you pay a little bit of money, you're a little bit more in the club. Um, and brands are and should think of themselves the same way. If you are a paying client of mine, I've got, not only am I going to give you the thing that you're buying, I'm going to make you feel a little bit special. And that's what we need to do as marketers and brand people.
A little bit special. Definitely like the customer like that. You've spoken
Absolutely.
about how logo can erode story, reverence, and place. Using the Bernheim Forest rebrand as example, where the mark itself feels like a leaf, path, and stained glass at all once. When a brand is ready to evolve, how do you preserve the soulful eroding while refreshing the expansion?
That really gets into our brand strategy process. That's when you're trying to create a new visual path that is truly special, unique, and authentic to your brand. You want to dig deep, and that is uncovering stories. And the graphics, they're not just um, a fancy letter that represents your brand. Like it needs to mean something, and it needs to connect on a deeper level. Even if the audience, it might take them a while to even see the different nuances of that brand system. And that's for Bernheim Forest, what you mentioned there, that was, we worked with them for about a year before we really started on the identity process. So we knew so much about what made them special. And we had talked to so many people in the organization, that we got to pitch back to them what we saw and what their members and the people that visit the forest saw, in a way that they may not have thought of, looking at it from the inside out.
Very well said, Mr. Jason. You work extensively with the mission driven organizations and nonprofits. For a purpose led brand, how does the decision to reinvent differ from a commercial brand? What's at stake when your identity is tied to a mission rather than just a product?
Sure, it's less of a singular transaction or series of transactions. It is, like we said before, the people identify with the brands that they support. So if you are a nonprofit or a mission driven organization, you've got a really special opportunity to bind yourself to these people. So that again, it is a more long-term relationship and conversation than just going to an e-commerce site, buying a pair of shoes, and being done with it. So, um, and they are supported a lot of different ways, right? So there's, the nonprofits that I'm really fond of. I might consider putting them into my estate planning, right? When I pass away, a forest like that might mean so much to me that I want to leave them a bequest of a few $1,000s. Um, and that's the type of relationship that a mission-driven organization wants to have with its constituents and its members.
Mr. Jason, you have noted that people want brands they can hold on to in the identity age. What does that mean, particularly for a leader considering a rebrand? How do you create something people can anchor to in a rapidly changing world?
Right. You really have to anchor to truth, and
Mm,
that can be hard for some organizations. But we've developed what we call our North Star brand strategy framework that really uncovers that, and that's the thing that has given us a bigger audience and gotten us invited to a lot more podcasts and interviews and that type of thing, because people are seeing that these brands that we're building do have a deeper, more meaningful presence to their audiences, and that's what you're looking for. You want, a your identity, the visuals that people see. You could do the most beautiful logo refresh and colors and graphics, but if they don't attach to a deeper truth about your organization, they're not going to connect as well to your audience. And again, that's something that we're really proud of, and that's the type of work that we do.
connection indeed, people. Let's connect with Mr. Jason. You started an era of printing press and light tables long before the Mac. You had to reinvent your own skills in multiple times. What's emotional experience of letting go of tools, methods, or even identities that once defined you?
Oh yeah, that's well, I mean, I don't know if it's true, but the world moves faster and faster, or at least it seems like it does. And
Hmm.
that's you I always think of what's pulling me forward rather than what's holding me back. So, for example, in the late 90s and early 2000s, I had really gotten into Flash. Flash was a technology that you could, it was a real big buzz on the internet because you could do animations, you could do programmatic kind of visual tricks with it. But ultimately, Flash failed. So if I 20 years after Flash kind of lost its dominance out there, if I would have held on to that for too long, I would not have as successful of a career. So techniques change, tactics change, technologies change, and you just have to be ready to move with it. And you can't, you always have to ask yourself if you're too attached to a thing. And it's easy to happen. The older you get, the more you get attached to your tools and techniques. So I always encourage people to have people around them that aren't scared to challenge you, especially if you're a leader, a CMO, a CEO. Don't surround yourself with yes people. Surround yourself with people that aren't afraid to question you, and they will help pull you forward.
Certainly. Balance yourself, people, and don't be afraid. You've observed that organic reach is harder than ever. In algorithm driven world, for a leader who build their brand in an era of organic growth, what is the grief process of accepting the rules have changed and how do may move it through?
Yeah. Well, the honestly, I think we're on the other side of the bell curve with the importance of social media. because of this algorithm and infinite scroll type of feed, the big platforms, Meta, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, they're looking for entertainers rather than brands. And if you want to get in that scroll, you have to pay a lot of money now. Um, so there is a little bit less reliance on that for some of our smaller clients that don't have tens of thousands of dollars to spend on advertising every month. Um, and it becomes more relational, and again, it depends on the type of business you have. A retail business is a lot different than a services business. But yeah, that's relationships are always important. Knowing where your audience is, that might be outside of the algorithms is important. So it's a lot of work, it's a lot of strategy, and it's never the same for. There's not a formula there that works. I always tell people, if you think there's a magic bullet, everyone's going to start doing that, and it won't be a magic bullet anymore. So just laying down and relying on more foundational marketing and branding principles is really important now.
Mr. Jason, you talk about danger of people thinking I downloaded Canva, so I'm a designer. The idea that tools can replace fundamentals. When someone is reinventing their brand, how do they distinguish between superficial changes like a new logo, a new color palette, a fundamental evolution, a new identity, or a new purpose?
Yeah, yeah. Um, I saw this back in the day when, the internet started to grow and people could pirate a copy of Photoshop and call themselves a designer. Um, this era with Canva, where you can plop down an AI design and call yourself a designer, isn't that much different. Um, and the really talented subject matter experts are always going to win. That's you can't, unless you have an infinite amount of time or staff to do these experiments and learn the subject matter. The subject matter expertise is always going to win out on a quick new tactic or tool, because again, if everybody can do a thing, that thing becomes less valuable. So this is always happening. It happened when social media got big. It's like, okay, it became an easy job to be a social media manager and post, you know, 6 times a week on Instagram and Facebook. And now we know that doesn't have nearly as much value as we thought it might. So it's the same thing with these new tools and the AI tools that are out now. So again, uh, the subject matter experts are always going to win when you put them up against a shiny new tool.
Certainly. So you emphasize soft skills like empathy and connection are ultimately what matter most. In a rebrand, those soft elements are hard to quantify. How does a leader ensure that the intangible heart of their brand survive the reinvention process?
Um, it's the words you use. It is the colors that you use. Like there is psychology behind good design and color theory and copywriting. So um, to make a connection, or in whatever way you need to make a connection with your audience. um, Again, that's it sounds easy, but it's not. It's very experienced professionals that have that muscle memory of their craft. And if you look at our teamtectonic.com website, everything on there is intentional. Everything, even if you don't know it has a story, it has a story. And if you can't um, even if you can't parse it, I guarantee you that you talk to our team about what's on that site and they can tell you the story behind it. So you want people to feel it and not necessarily get it all immediately.
You've earned awards including AIGA, a Louisville Best of Branding, and their only Visionary Award. Looking at the work that was recognized, what do brands that last have in common, and what's the top line between trendy rebrand and the timeless one?
Yeah, it's good leadership. It's, if it's a kind of a common occurrence in the marketing world that a new marketing manager or CMO gets hired into a position and they immediately want to change everything. Um, and it you can tell that it's driven by their ego and not by what the brand needs. And the true projects that we have done that have really connected with their audience and won those awards are the ones where, we don't listen to our egos, we listen to what our audience is telling us, and we build those stories based on what's true and not what you know somebody with the loudest voice in the room has. And again, I think that's one of the ways our framework really shines, is it considers all of the voices in the room, but it's our goal is to uncover the truth.
Congratulations for that award, Mr. Jason. Keep up the good work. You've said your most valuable skill is connecting with people first, then talking business. If a leader is in the middle of reinvention and has lost confidence, feels like imposter in their new identity, how do they connect with people in a way that feels genuine rather than performative?
Oh man. um, I just honesty and truth, right? You have to be
Mm,
honest. You have
true.
to, when if you don't feel like the work that you've done, the branding work that you've done is honest and true, you've got to find ways to fix that. And if you can't fix that, then you do that by your presence in the world and how you show up for your team and your prospects and your clients. That's always going to be more important than the marketing part. That's, especially I'm in the services business, and I would say at least 80% of our work comes from referrals, not, the other 20% comes from our really good marketing and branding. But so you have to be a real person. You have to connect with people and be honest with them and have their trust. And that's always going to come first. And that's always what we should be focused on.
Mr. Jason, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, because my abstract essay is already in sixth season, abstract poetry in third season, and of course my book 101 review in sixth season too, a comedy 101 fourth season, and of course my food 101 in sixth season as well. Geography 101 love letters, a movie 101 review, music 101 our fifth season, science 101, sex 101 in its fourth season, and my baby podcast Trivia 101, Motivation 101, Spiritual Awakening 101, Entrepreneurship 101, Law 101, Mental Health 101, Coaching 101, and of course, my Bible verses 101. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. Finally, Mr. Jason, you've spent 25 plus years helping organizations bring their brands to life. After all the work, all of these evolutions, what is the most common regret you hear from leaders who waited too long to reinvent? And what would you want to something sitting or someone sitting on the fence today to know about the cost of staying still?
Yeah. I would say the regret that I hear is when people don't spend the time and the money to do it right the first time. So if, again, there is a level of work that we do that costs a certain amount of money, and I would say, we'll get turned down for that project, and then I'll run into that CEO or that leader a couple years later, and what they did for cheaper didn't work, and that's the regret. It's like, man, I wish we could go back in time and hire you to do it right the first time. So do it right the first time. If you've got the time, you're going to do the project, do the good work.
Do the good work, people. Mr. Jason Clark, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your business, your advocacy, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Absolutely. You can go to teamtectonic.com and check out all of the different digital services that we offer, branding and marketing, but we've also got an IT, cybersecurity division. We've got a couple SaaS products, lots of stuff going on at Tectonic. So check us out there. You can always find me on LinkedIn at the letter C, Jason Clark. Pretty easy to find, Jason Clark, Tectonic. Give me a shout.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Jason Clark because if you support him, for sure, more and more tectonic to rise. So, Mr. Jason, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Daniel. Great talking to you.
Likewise, more to come, people. See you soon. Hoping for more awards, Mr. Jason, and please do come over and let's talk about it.